Vote counting is well underway in Afghanistan after Saturday's landmark poll to elect a new president. More than 7 million Afghans turned out to vote, defying Taliban militant threats to the poll. The election marks the country's first democratic transfer of power. It will take at least another week before the winner is confirmed. If none of the 8 candidates gets more than 50% of the vote, Afghans will vote again in a second round. But the BBC's list set in Kabul says many Afghans feel their country has already won by holding a relatively peaceful poll. Turnout was double that of the last presidential election in 2009, despite major Taliban attacks in the run-up to voting in a cold, rainy polling day. MP Shukriya Baraksai says turnout was a reaction to Taliban threats. Complaints are now coming in about alleged irregularities, including shortages of ballot papers in some areas, but our correspondent says there is greater confidence in the electoral machinery than before and hope that all the candidates will accept the result. Queue of voters. Long queues built up at some polling stations on Saturday. Election workers counting votes in Herat, 5 April. A second-round runoff is expected in May because no candidate is expected to poll more than 50%. Electoral officials have urged patience, saying partial results could come as early as Sunday, but it is likely to be at least a week before a complete picture emerges. More than 1,200 complaints had been received by the Election Complaints Commission (ECC) by Sunday morning, spokesman Nader Mohseni said. Complaints include late opening of polling centers, shortage of ballot papers, encouraging of voters to vote for certain candidates and mistreatment of some election officials, he added. Although there are 8 candidates for president, only 3 are considered frontrunners, former foreign ministers Abdullah Abdullah and Zulmir Rasool, and former finance minister Ashraf Ghani Ahmadeh. Analysts say Dr. Abdullah has fought a polished campaign, Mr. Ghani has strong support among the new urban youth vote and Dr. Rasool is believed to favored by Mr. Karzai. Dr. Abdullah, who pulled out of a 2009 vote before the second round amid allegations of irregularities, hailed Saturday's poll as a success. However, he complained that many voters had been deprived of their right to take part because of a lack of ballot boxes. Man votes. Voters were choosing from among 8 candidates. Ink-stained finger for some voters, a finger stained with identifying ink became a badge of pride and defiance. The UN Security Council has issued a statement applauding preparations for the vote and urging the candidates and their supporters to respect the electoral institutions and processes. Fidges Berman, the head of the European Union's election assessment team in Kabul, praised the courage of Afghan voters. This in itself is a victory over violence and a victory over all those who wanted to deter democracy by threats and violence, he said. Mr. Karzai, barred by the constitution from seeking a third term, said after polls closed, despite the cold and rainy weather and possible terrorist attack, our sisters and brothers nationwide took in this election and their participation is a step forward. U.S. President Barack Obama said in a statement, "We commend the Afghan people, security forces, and elections officials on the turnout for today's vote." UK Foreign Secretary William Hague said in a statement, "It is a great achievement for the Afghan people that so many voters, men and women, young and old, have turned out in such large numbers, despite threats of violence." NATO military alliance chief Anders Fogh Rasmussen said the elections were a historic moment for Afghanistan. NATO has coordinated much of the work of foreign forces in Afghanistan, most of them US and British troops, in a mission that will end this year. Meanwhile, the Afghan authorities say at least 13 suspected Taliban insurgents were killed on Saturday in separate American drone attacks in the east of the country. In the first attack, 7 militants died in the district of Ghaziabad in Kunar province, near the border with Pakistan. Later, after nightfall, 6 Taliban militants were killed in the same district. The Taliban carried out several attacks on polling stations and security forces in Kunar.